The alarm on Earth Station Atlas rang with a clarity that felt almost offensive against the backdrop of endless space. Dr. Elena Reyes jerked awake at her workstation, blinking away the fatigue of a 30-hour shift. Her monitor pulsed with urgent data streams, numbers spiraling into patterns she had never seen before. "Director Reyes," called a voice from the doorway. "You need to see this." Elena swiped her screen clear and followed Jonas Lynn, her lead engineer, to the observation deck. The young man's normally calm demeanor had fractured. His hands trembled slightly as he pointed toward the main view screen. "It started 20 minutes ago. The signal originated from Gliese 581G. The screen displayed what appeared to be a supernova in progress, but with impossible variations in its spectral signature." Elena's breath caught. Gliese 581 Gram had been humanity's first attempt at stellar stabilization 3 years prior. A partial success. They had called it a partial failure. She had always believed. "Have you verified this isn't equipment malfunction?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Triple-checked. This is real, Dr. Reyes." Before she could respond, the communications officer's voice cut through the ambient hum of the station. "Director, we have an incoming transmission. It's from the Council." The Galactic Council rarely communicated directly with Earth. Their envoys appeared only for matters of cosmic significance, usually to censure humanity for its reckless interventions in stellar physics. The view screen flickered, replaced by the crystalline form of a Council envoy. Its translucent body refracted light in patterns that somehow conveyed both language and emotion. "Humans of Earth," it began, voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. "The star you attempted to save has now entered catastrophic decay. The dark matter cascade has accelerated beyond its natural pattern." Elena stepped forward. "We stabilized that system. Our readings confirmed." "Your readings were incomplete," the envoy interrupted. "As is your understanding of cosmic equilibrium. This is why the Council prohibits artificial stellar manipulation." Admiral Marcus Vale entered the observation deck, his uniform impeccable despite the late hour. His presence commanded immediate attention, a necessary trait for the commander of Earth's solar defense fleet. "What does this mean for Gliese's planets?" Vale asked, cutting to the core concern. The envoy's light patterns shifted to a deeper blue. "They are lost. The system will collapse entirely within 7 of your days." A pause. Then, "But that is not why I come to you now." The crystalline being's form seemed to shimmer with reluctance. "The decay pattern we've detected. It's spreading. Your son will be next." The silence that followed was absolute, broken only when Vale asked, "How long?" "Without intervention. 6 months until initial destabilization. Perhaps a year until Earth becomes uninhabitable." "And with intervention?" Elena found herself asking. The envoy's form darkened. "The Council does not recommend intervention. The natural order—" "We're not asking for recommendations," Vale interrupted. "We're asking if it can be stopped." The crystalline being pulsed with what might have been resignation. "Theoretically, yes, but the scale would dwarf your previous attempt, and the Council will not sanction such action." After the envoy departed, Elena stood motionless before the monitors displaying their son, still steady, still golden, betraying no hint of its impending death. "We need to inform the World Security Council immediately," Vale said, already moving toward the communications array. "Wait," Elena's voice stopped him. "We need a plan first. If we just announce this, there'll be global panic." Vale turned, his expression hardening. "Dr. Reyes, this isn't a research problem to solve in your lab. This is an extinction-level event." "I know that, Admiral. Better than most." The weight of the Gliese mission's partial failure hung between them. "But causing a worldwide panic won't save anyone. Give my team 48 hours to develop a preliminary response strategy. Then, we go to the Council." Vale studied her for a long moment. 24 hours, he finally conceded. Not a minute more. As Vale left, Jonas approached cautiously. What are you thinking? Elena turned to the monitor, where simulations of their son's internal processes flowed like liquid gold. I'm thinking we need to make the impossible happen again. But this time, we have to get it completely right. She thought of the children in schools around the world, learning how human ingenuity had partially tamed the stars, how their nights were now lit by carefully engineered sunsets, products of humanity's first tentative steps toward stellar manipulation. Call the team, she told Jonas. All of them. As alarms began to sound throughout the station, Elena looked once more at the dying light of Gliese, 581G. She had failed those planets once. She would not fail Earth. The warning had come. Now they had to decide whether Earth would simply grieve its dying sun or fight back. The World Security Council convened 26 hours later in the orbital chamber above the terraformed moon base. Representatives from every nation stood in a perfect circle, their faces illuminated by the holographic display of the sun at the center. "You're certain of this timeline?" asked Councillor Okafor, her voice steady despite the horror of what Elena had just presented. "As certain as our models allow," Elena replied. "The dark matter cascade affecting Gliese is spreading through this sector of the galaxy. Our sun shows the earliest indicators of susceptibility." "And your solution?" This from Councillor Meyer, the European representative whose scientific background made him one of the few who fully grasped the technical details. Jonas stepped forward, activating a new hologram. "An adaptive ring system," he explained. 20 rings in total, positioned strategically around the sun, each containing millions of quantum manipulators designed to isolate and neutralize the dark matter intrusions. "Like the Gliese project," Meyer noted. "But vastly more advanced," Jonas corrected. "The Gliese design was limited. This incorporates everything we've learned since then." Admiral Vale, standing beside the President of the United World Alliance, spoke next. "The resource requirements would be unprecedented. We'd need to convert most of our orbital infrastructure to construction platforms." "And the timeline?" asked President Alvarez. 9 months to complete construction, Elena said. "Cutting it close, but possible." "And if we fail?" This from a representative Elena didn't recognize, one of the newer African nations. "Then we implement the Exodus protocols," Vale answered grimly. "Maximum evacuation to Mars and Europa. But even our most optimistic projections show we could only save perhaps 2% of Earth's population." The chamber erupted in voices then, some demanding immediate construction, others insisting on evacuation prioritization, still others questioning the science itself. President Alvarez raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Reyes, you led the Gliese mission. That was a partial success. What makes you believe this attempt will fare better when the stakes are infinitely higher?" Elena felt the weight of 8 billion lives in that question. "Because we have no choice but to succeed," she said simply. "And because this time, we understand what we're facing." The council envoy made it clear they oppose intervention. Councillor Zhang noted. "What consequences might we face from defying them?" "With all due respect," Vale interjected, "if our sun dies, council sanctions become irrelevant." As the debate continued, Elena found herself drawn to the viewport, where Earth hung blue and innocent against the black. From here, you couldn't see the protests that had already begun in major cities, sparked by leaked reports of the crisis. You couldn't hear the chants of "Save Our Sun" that had spontaneously emerged in dozens of languages. Jonas joined her at the window. "They're still deliberating whether to try saving everyone or just deciding who gets the lifeboats," he said quietly. "People are afraid," Elena replied. "Fear makes rationality difficult." "Is that why you haven't mentioned the power requirements yet?" Jonas asked. Elena's silence was answer enough. The adaptive ring system would require energy on a scale never before harnessed. drawing power not just from every nuclear plant and solar farm on Earth, but from the planetary grid itself. Cities would go dark, economies would freeze. The world would have to accept a temporary return to darkness in order to save its light. They need to understand hope before they confront the sacrifice, she finally said. When she returned to the council floor, the debate had crystallized into two factions. Those behind Vale who favored prioritizing evacuation while attempting a partial solution, and those rallying behind Elena's complete intervention approach. "We can't save everyone," Vale was saying. "That's the hard truth. We need to be pragmatic." "Pragmatism won't build something that's never existed before," Elena countered. "For that, we need the kind of unified purpose that only comes from believing we can save everyone." President Alvarez studied them both. "Dr. Reyes, if we commit our resources to your project and it fails, we lose even the limited evacuation capability." "Madam President," Elena said, stepping closer to the holographic sun, "humanity has faced extinction before, from climate collapse, from pandemics, from our own weapons. Each time, we survived not by accepting partial solutions, but by transforming the impossible into the inevitable." She gestured to the hologram. "This is our sun, not some distant star. If we won't fight for this, what would we ever fight for?" A murmur passed through the chamber, something shifting in the collective mood. "Construction projections," Alvarez demanded. Jonas activated detailed schematics. "Initial resource gathering begins immediately. Mercury mining operations expanded for raw materials. Orbital factories repurposed for ring components. Assembly drones reprogrammed for solar proximity work." "And the AI?" Zhang asked. "We'd need something more advanced than anything currently operating to coordinate a project of this scale." "Helios the Seku," Elena confirmed. "An evolution of the system that managed the Glisa attempt, but with significantly expanded capabilities." The council chamber grew quiet as the magnitude of the decision settled over them. 20 rings, Alvarez said thoughtfully. 20 rings to cage a star." She looked up at the representatives surrounding her. "Put it to a vote." Elena held her breath as the votes registered on the main display. Nation by nation, humanity decided whether to accept its fate or defy it. The final tally appeared: 143 in favor, 29 opposed, 11 abstentions. "Then, it's decided," Alvarez announced. "Project Solar Shield will commence immediately. Dr. Reyes will serve as scientific director, with Admiral Vale as strategic commander." She looked between them. "Your differences are now irrelevant. The only thing that matters is success." As the council dispersed, Leon Torres, Earth's chief diplomat to the Galactic Council, approached Elena. "The Council won't stand idle while we attempt this," she warned. "They believe we're violating cosmic law." "Then your job just got a lot harder," Elena replied. "Keep them talking while we build." Outside the chamber, public view screens displayed the news worldwide. Humanity to save the sun. Below it, smaller, global rationing begins immediately. Elena watched faces in 100 different cities absorb this information. Fear, hope, disbelief, all mingling in a planetary chorus of emotion. Now came the hard part: transforming that emotion into the greatest engineering project in human history. "Ready to build a cage for the sun?" Jonas asked, attempting lightness. Elena looked once more at Earth, suspended in its fragile beauty. "Not a cage," she corrected him. "A cradle." The first construction octet launched 3 weeks later, from the expanded shipyards orbiting Earth. 8 massive vessels, each carrying the components for the first ring segment, accelerated toward the sun with plasma engines burning blue against the black. On Mercury, automated drills had already begun mining operations on an unprecedented scale, converting the planet's metallic core into raw materials for the quantum manipulators that would form the heart of each ring. Earth itself had transformed. Power rationing had begun worldwide, with non-essential systems shut down to divert energy to the construction effort. At night, once brilliant cities now showed only sparse, strategic lighting, a preview of the greater darkness to come when the rings would demand Earth's full electrical output. In her new command center aboard the research vessel, Prometheus, Elena studied the real-time construction feeds. Ring 1 deployment is proceeding on schedule, Jonas reported, gesturing to a holographic display where mechanical arms assembled delicate components in the sun's orbit. And Helios 2? Elena asked. Final calibrations underway. The AI will be fully operational before the first ring activation. Admiral Vale entered the command center, his face grim. We've detected council vessels at the edge of the system, he announced. Not approaching yet, but definitely observing. How many? Elena asked. 3 that we can track. Probably more. Leon Torres looked up from her communications console. They've been sending diplomatic warnings hourly, each one more strongly worded than the last. Can you keep them talking? Vale asked. I'm trying, but they're growing impatient. They've declared our project a Class 1 violation of cosmic order. Elena turned back to the construction feeds. The first ring was taking shape, a massive arc of gleaming metal and crystalline manipulators that would eventually form a complete circle around the sun's equator. 19 more would follow, positioned at precise intervals to create a 3-dimensional lattice capable of neutralizing the dark matter intrusions from any angle. Dr. Reyes, called one of the monitoring technicians. We're detecting anomalous activity in the sun's core. Elena moved quickly to the station. Show me. The display revealed subtle but unmistakable perturbations in the fusion reactions powering their star, the first visible signs of the coming decay. It's starting already, she said, her voice barely audible. The cascade is accelerating faster than our models predicted. Vale joined her at the monitor. How much does this change our timeline? Elena ran quick calculations. Instead of 6 months until critical destabilization, we might have 4, maybe less. Can we accelerate construction? Not without compromising structural integrity. Elena straightened, addressing the entire command staff. The rings have to be perfect. There's no margin for error. As the others returned to their stations with renewed urgency, Vale remained beside her. Your team needs rest, Elena, he said quietly, dropping formality for the first time. Especially you. I'll rest when Earth is safe. You'll rest because exhausted scientists make mistakes, he countered. And we can't afford mistakes. Before she could argue, Jonas called from across the command center. We have an incoming transmission. It's the Council envoy again. The main screen activated, revealing the crystalline being. Its light patterns pulsed with what Elena had learned to recognize as agitation. Humans of Earth, it began. Your construction activities violate the natural order of stellar evolution. You were warned against this course. Elena stepped forward. We're protecting our home. You would do the same. The life cycle of stars is not yours to manipulate, the envoy continued. The Council has convened an emergency session to discuss your actions. And while they discuss, Vale said, we'll continue building. The envoy's form darkened. Be warned. Interference in cosmic processes carries consequences beyond your understanding. After the transmission ended, Leon approached Elena. They're preparing for more than diplomatic protests, she said. My sources indicate they might be assembling an intervention force. An intervention force? Vale repeated. You mean a military response? The Council rarely acts directly, Leon explained. But when they do... Elena returned to the construction feeds, where the first ring was now nearly 30% complete. We keep building, she said firmly. If they want to stop us, they'll have to do it by force. Weeks passed in a blur of construction milestones and setbacks. The second and third rings took shape, while Mercury's automated factories worked at maximum capacity to produce components for the remaining 17. Helios II came online, its quantum processors coordinating the massive project with efficiency no human team could match. But as the fourth ring neared completion, the first serious problem emerged. "We're detecting dark matter spikes around Ring 2, Jonas reported one morning, his face drawn from lack of sleep. Elena studied the data. "The sun's decay is affecting the ring's quantum field. If this continues, the heat will eventually melt the manipulators." They worked through the night, recalibrating the quantum fields to withstand the increasing solar instability. It worked, but barely, and at the cost of 3 days' delay. On Earth, the situation was deteriorating faster than anticipated. Reports came in of atmospheric changes as the sun's output became increasingly erratic. Crop failures had begun in sensitive regions. Weather patterns showed dangerous destabilization. And as cities went dark to conserve power for the construction effort, social unrest flared. The natural order front had emerged, a radical faction arguing that humanity should accept its fate rather than wage war against cosmic law. "They're gaining support," Vale noted during a security briefing. "Especially as conditions worsen." "People are afraid," Elena said. "Fear makes them vulnerable to simple answers." "Fear also makes them dangerous," Vale countered. "We've increased security at all construction facilities after sabotage attempts at the European launch site." By the time the eighth ring locked into place, Earth's situation had become dire. Permanent aurora displays lit the skies as the sun's magnetic field fluctuated wildly. Global temperatures had begun to swing in unpredictable patterns, and the Council's observation vessels had moved closer, now stationed just beyond Mars's orbit. "They're waiting," Leon theorized, "watching to see if we succeed or fail before deciding whether to intervene." On the Prometheus, Elena rarely left the command center now. Sleep came in short bursts, often at her workstation. The construction effort had taken on a frantic rhythm, each ring deployment bringing both triumph and the crushing awareness that 11 more remained. Then, as the ninth ring initialized, Helios 2 began to glitch. "The AI is detecting phantom dark matter intrusions," Jonas explained, attempting to isolate the error. "It's trying to compensate for patterns that aren't there yet." "Can you correct it?" "I'm trying, but its predictive algorithms are operating at a level I can barely track, let alone modify." Elena made a decision. "Take it offline for a full diagnostic. We'll coordinate manually until it's stable." "That will slow deployment significantly," Vale warned. "Better slow than wrong," Elena replied. "One misaligned ring could collapse the entire structure." The diagnostic took 26 hours. 26 hours during which construction effectively halted. When Helios II came back online, its processes had been streamlined, but valuable time had been lost. Earth continued its descent into darkness. Power grids worldwide now operated at minimum capacity, diverting nearly everything to the construction effort. In cities across the planet, people gathered in community centers to conserve energy and find solace in collective uncertainty. As the 10th ring locked into place, marking the halfway point, a small celebration broke out on the Prometheus. Elena allowed it briefly. Her team needed the morale boost, but her own attention remained fixed on the construction feeds. 10 down, 10 to go, Jonas said, appearing beside her with a rare smile. "We might actually pull this off." "We have to," she replied simply. The 11th and 12th rings deployed without major incident. But as the 13th took shape, the Council envoy returned. This time, its crystalline form pulsed with colors Elena had never seen before. "The Council has reached a decision," it announced without preamble. "Your stellar intervention cannot be permitted to continue." Vale stepped forward. "On what authority do you presume to decide Earth's fate?" "On the authority of cosmic balance," the envoy replied. "Your actions threaten patterns beyond this single star system." "We're saving our home," Elena argued, "just as we tried to save Glisa." "Your attempt at Glisa accelerated the very decay you sought to prevent," the envoy countered. "The Council will not allow such an error to spread further." Leon joined the conversation. Are you threatening direct intervention? The envoy's colors shifted to a deep, pulsing red. A regulatory fleet has been dispatched. They will arrive in 14 of your days. After the transmission ended, Vale immediately activated the secure command channel. All solar defense vessels. This is Admiral Vale. Implement Protocol Aegis. Defensive positions at Mars orbital line. Elena looked at him sharply. You're preparing for combat? Against the Council. I'm preparing to protect our construction effort, he corrected. If they want to stop us, they'll have to go through our fleet first. We can't fight the Council, Leon protested. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. Then we need to finish before they arrive, Elena said, turning back to the construction feeds. Accelerate deployment of rings 14 through 20. That would mean cutting safety margins, Jonas warned. Calculate minimum viable margins and implement, Elena ordered. We don't have the luxury of perfection anymore. The next week passed in a blur of frantic activity. Rings 14, 15, and 16 locked into place with bare minimum testing. Materials for the final 4 rings streamed from Mercury's factories at rates that pushed equipment to breaking points. Then, with 16 rings deployed and only 4 remaining, Helios A2 delivered devastating news. The decay is accelerating exponentially, Elena announced to the command staff. At current progression, we have 48 hours until system failure if the rings aren't complete and synchronized. 48 hours, Vale repeated. The final rings are still scheduled for deployment over the next 4 days. Then we need to revise the schedule, Elena said. Immediately. The command center transformed into a hive of desperate calculation. Jonas led the engineering team in redesigning deployment sequences. Vale coordinated with the fleet to provide maximum protection for the construction vessels now working dangerously close to the increasingly unstable sun. We need more power, Elena realized, studying the projections. The final rings require stronger field generation than our current supply can provide. Vale understood immediately what she was suggesting. You want to shut down Earth's remaining power grid completely. For 24 hours, she confirmed. Every watt redirected to ring construction. That would mean hospitals on emergency generators only. Traffic systems offline. Water purification at minimal levels. I know what it means, Elena said quietly. But the alternative is permanent darkness. Vale was silent for a long moment. I'll inform President Alvarez, he finally said. But the decision will have to come from the World Council. While they awaited the Council's decision, construction continued at its maximum possible pace. Ring 17 took shape, a gleaming halo joining its sisters in the complex lattice surrounding the sun. Then disaster struck. We have a breach on Ring 17, a technician shouted. Section 8 Alpha is breaking apart. The command screens showed it clearly. A portion of the nearly completed ring was fracturing, components drifting away from the main structure. What happened? Elena demanded. It looks like deliberate sabotage, Jonas reported, his voice tight with disbelief. The connection points were weakened from inside. Security feeds revealed the truth. A maintenance team on the ring had planted explosives at critical junctures. Their final transmission identified them as members of the Natural Order Front. Damage assessment, Elena ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. Ring 17 is compromised beyond repair, Jonas reported after analysis. We'd need to rebuild it from scratch. We don't have time for that, Vale said, stating the obvious. Elena stared at the fragmented ring, mind racing through impossible calculations. We need to reconfigure the entire array, she said finally. 19 rings instead of 20, with modified field strengths to compensate. Is that even possible? Leon asked. Theoretically, Helios 2 would need to recalculate the entire harmonization sequence, while simultaneously managing deployment of the final rings, Jonas added. That's pushing the AI beyond tested limits. We have no choice, Elena said. Implement the reconfiguration. As Helios II began its massive recalculation, word came from Earth. The World Council had approved the complete power diversion. In 12 hours, Earth would voluntarily plunge itself into darkness to save its sun. The countdown began. Construction vessels raced to deploy rings 18 and 19, now reconfigured to compensate for 17's loss. Solar flares lashed out with increasing frequency, forcing evacuation of several assembly teams. Council vessels have crossed Mars orbit, Vale reported grimly. Our fleet is engaged in delaying tactics, but they're pushing through. On the main view screen, Earth began to darken as power plants worldwide initiated shutdown sequences, diverting every available watt to the Ring project. City by city, continent by continent, humanity surrendered its light in a desperate gamble to save its source of all light. Final Ring deployment in progress, Jonas announced. Estimated completion in 40 minutes. Helios 2 status? Elena asked. Harmonization sequence prepared, but... He hesitated. The AI is showing signs of extreme strain. Some processes are approaching failure points. Elena made her decision. Jonas, prepare a shuttle. We're going to Ring 19. What? Vale turned to her in shock. That's insane. The solar activity alone could kill you before you even reach the ring. Helios 2 needs direct access to the control node. Elena explained. The communications lag from here is too great for final synchronization. Someone needs to establish a direct interface. Then send a drone, Vale argued. A drone can't make the judgment calls this will require, Elena countered. I designed these systems. It has to be me. Before Vale could object further, President Alvarez's voice came through the command channel. Dr. Reyes, the World Council authorizes your mission. Admiral Vale will provide maximum protection. Vale's expression hardened, but he nodded once. Prepare her shuttle for immediate launch. Full radiation shielding. Priority corridor through the defense grid. As Elena and Jonas boarded the shuttle, Leon caught her arm. The Council ships will reach us in approximately 3 hours, she warned. Then we'd better be done in 2, Elena replied. The shuttle launched, accelerating toward the nearly completed ring structure. Through the viewport, Elena could see the sun as she never had before, its surface roiling with storms, prominence erupting like angry tentacles reaching into space. Around it, the 19 rings, one still fragmentary, formed an intricate geometric pattern that seemed impossibly delicate against the fury they were designed to contain. Approaching Ring 19, Jonas announced from the pilot's seat. Radiation levels rising, but still within shielding parameters. They docked at the ring's main control node, a reinforced chamber containing the direct neural interface for Helios 2. As they sealed their helmets and prepared for EVA, a massive solar flare erupted, rocking the shuttle. That was too close, Jonas said, his voice tight through the comm system. It's going to get closer, Elena replied. Let's move. They made their way along the ring's outer surface, magnetic boots keeping them anchored against the periodic tremors. The control node's entrance loomed ahead, a simple airlock leading to humanity's last hope. Inside, Elena moved quickly to the neural interface, while Jonas monitored the ring's status. The final segments are locking into place, he reported. 19 rings nearly complete. Elena connected to Helios 2, her mind suddenly flooding with the AI's vast processing patterns. Through this direct link, she could sense the system's struggle, billions of calculations per second, as it attempted to harmonize 19 rings instead of the planned 20. Helios is failing, she announced. The compensation algorithms are creating feedback loops. Another solar flare rocked the structure, alarms blaring as temperature sensors spiked. We have maybe 15 minutes before this section melts, Jonas warned. Elena's fingers flew over the interface. I need to manually reset the primary harmonics and let Helios rebuild from base parameters. Will that work? It has to. On Earth, now completely dark except for essential emergency systems. Billions of people waited. In the command center of the Prometheus, Vale and Leon watched Elena's vital signs alongside the ring deployment status. Council ships have breached our outer defensive line, an officer reported. Estimated arrival at the ring structure in 22 minutes. She needs more time, Leon said quietly. Vale nodded once. All vessels. This is Admiral Vale. Implement Bulwark Protocol. I repeat, Bulwark Protocol authorized. Across the solar system, Earth's defensive fleet moved into a suicide formation, positioned to physically block the approaching Council ships, even at the cost of their own destruction. In the control node, Elena completed the reset. For one terrifying moment, all 19 rings went dark. Then, one by one, they began to reactivate, their quantum fields harmonizing in a new pattern. It's working, Jonas said in disbelief. The fields are stabilizing. But as the final ring prepared to activate, a critical error appeared. The power supply to Section 12 is fluctuating, Elena realized. It can't complete the circuit. Another violent tremor shook the node as the sun launched its largest flare yet. Warning lights flooded the chamber red. Structural integrity failing, Jonas reported. We have maybe 2 minutes before this section breaks apart. Elena saw only one option. The emergency reactor in our shuttle. If we reroute it to Section 12, that's our way home, Jonas said. If this fails, there is no home, Elena countered. They moved with desperate speed, Jonas connecting their shuttle's power core to the ring systems, while Elena recalibrated Helios 2 to accept the new power source. Council ships will reach the ring structure in 4 minutes, came Vale's voice through their comms. Almost there, Elena responded. Initiating final synchronization. The 19 rings began to glow with increasing intensity as their quantum fields interlocked. Through her neural link with Helios 2, Elena could feel the pattern taking shape, a vast, invisible net designed to capture and neutralize the dark matter intrusions. Synchronization at 80%, she reported. 85, 90. A final, massive solar eruption struck near their position. The control node shuddered violently, panels tearing loose around them. Hull breach imminent, Jonas shouted. We need to evacuate. Not yet, Elena insisted, hands still on the interface. 95%, 98. The view screen showed Council ships appearing at the edge of the ring structure, their crystalline forms gleaming against the black. 100%, Elena announced. Synchronization complete. Activating containment field. As the quantum field activated fully, a ripple of energy passed through all 19 rings simultaneously. For one breathtaking moment, the sun seemed to pause in its violent convulsions. Then, slowly, the prominence receded. The surface storms began to calm. The erratic flares subsided. It's working, Jonas whispered. It's actually working. Elena disconnected from the neural interface, her legs nearly buckling as the strain of the past hours caught up with her. We need emergency extraction, she managed through the comm. Our shuttle is disabled. Already on the way, came Vale's voice. And Elena, the Council ships have stopped their approach. They're holding position. The rescue shuttle arrived minutes later, evacuating them from the rapidly deteriorating control node. As they pulled away, Elena watched through the viewport as 19 perfect rings held their sun in a gentle embrace. Technology and nature finding harmony after coming so close to mutual destruction. On the return journey, exhaustion finally claimed her, and she fell into the first deep sleep she had known in months. Elena awoke in the medical bay of the Prometheus. Through the viewport, she could see Earth, and for one terrifying moment, she thought they had failed. The planet hung in darkness, no city lights visible on its night side. Then she understood. The power had not yet been restored. They're waiting for your signal, said Vale, appearing beside her bed. President Alvarez thought you should have the honor. The rings? She asked immediately. Fully operational. The sun has stabilized completely. Helios 2 reports all dark matter intrusions have been neutralized. She sat up slowly, muscles protesting after too long in zero gravity. And the Council? Their ships withdrew after the rings activated, Leon answered, joining them. Apparently, success earned us a temporary reprieve. Elena moved to the command center, where Jonas waited at the main console. Ready to bring Earth back online? He asked with a tired smile. She nodded, placing her hand on the activation panel. Initiate global power restoration. Across the console screens, they watched as power plants worldwide began restart sequences. Sector by sector, grid by grid, Earth came back to life. City lights bloomed like stars across the night side, a human constellation answering the stars above. Cheers erupted from the command staff as communication channels flooded with reports of successful restoration. In cities around the world, people emerged from their homes to celebrate under a sky now painted with the gentle glow of a healed sun. 3 days later, as the Prometheus prepared to return to Earth orbit, the Council envoy appeared one final time. Its crystalline form seemed somehow more vibrant than before, colors shifting in complex patterns. Humans of Earth, it began. The Council acknowledges your success. Elena stepped forward. Does this mean you accept our right to protect our home? The Council acknowledges that perspectives evolve, the envoy replied carefully. Your species has demonstrated capabilities beyond our previous assessment. And the rings? Vale asked. Will you attempt to dismantle them? The rings may remain, the envoy conceded. But be warned, with greater power comes greater responsibility to the cosmic order. After the envoy departed, Elena stood at the viewport, watching Earth grow larger as they approached. The 19 rings were barely visible from this distance, thin silver halos catching the sunlight at precise angles. Jonas joined her, followed by Vale and Leon. Together, they watched in silence as their home planet rotated serenely below. What now? Jonas finally asked. Elena considered the question. Now we prepare. The envoy was right about one thing. This is just the beginning. If the dark matter cascade is spreading, other stars will need protection. You want to build more rings? Vale asked, surprised. Not immediately, she clarified. First, we learn everything we can from what we've accomplished. Then, when we're ready, we offer our knowledge to others. The Council might oppose that, Leon warned. Perhaps, Elena acknowledged. Or perhaps they'll recognize that the cosmic order they so value isn't static. It evolves, just as we do. As the Prometheus docked with Earth Station Atlas, Elena took one last look at the sun, steady and golden again, embraced by humanity's greatest creation. She thought of how close they had come to watching it die, to accepting that Earth would grieve quietly in the darkness. Instead, they had taught the sky to sing with human voices. When she stepped onto Earth for the first time in nearly a year, Elena looked up at the familiar blue sky, now hiding the rings that made it possible. Children played in parks under warm sunlight, their games inspired by the recent drama above, some pretending to build solar shields, others racing to save the sun. They wouldn't understand for years what had nearly been lost, what had been saved through sacrifice and determination. But someday, these children would look up at the night sky and see not just distant stars, but a universe full of possibilities, worlds to protect, civilizations to meet, cosmic laws not just to obey, but to transform. Earth had not grieved its sun. Instead, humanity had defied fate itself, rewriting the very rules of stellar existence. And in doing so, they had announced their presence to the galaxy, not just as inhabitants of a small blue planet, but as guardians of light itself. Ready to go home? Jonas asked, waiting at the shuttle that would take them to the celebration ceremony. Elena took one more look at the sky, at the invisible rings holding their star in a gentle cradle of human ingenuity. "We are home," she said simply. "And now, so is our son."